Good morning and namaste to all of you. Let's start our Wednesday class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhurbhava Swaha Tatsavitra Varene Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Asto Ma Sadgamya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya Mrityurma Amritam Gamya Om Sahna Bhavatu Sahna Bhunaktu Saviryam Karvavai Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavai Om Shanti 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 Om. We all go through the rituals every day. As Hindus, we do the Sandhya twice. And then all day long, we are aware of our actions. As we get more and more mature, we do the selfless actions also. So when our minds are purified through the selfless actions, and our mind is made single-pointed through upasana, the worship, because these are the two things we are doing. Ever since we were little, we were told to do these two things. Time comes that we cannot remain satisfied with the small achievements in worldly life. That means that is not enough for us. We begin to ask questions such as, what is the purpose of life? What is my true nature? What is this world? And from where it has come? What is the source and origin of this entire creation? When questions of this kind arise in a person's mind, his or her quest for knowledge really begins. And this quest can be satisfied only when the student approaches a spiritual master and learns from the master this highest knowledge of the self. Anything short of that, we are not satisfied. And this knowledge is the subject matter of the third and the last portion of the Vedas. Because the first portion is Karam Kand. Through Karam Kand, we learn how to do selfless actions. Then Upasana Kand, we learn how to do the worship. And the third is called the Gyan Kand, which we call the Upanishads also. Upanishad, it's a Sanskrit word. It's a combination of three words, Up, Ni, and Shat. Up means near. Ni means below. It also means determination. And Shat means to sit down. So the simple meaning is near, below, sitting. There's an indicative meaning also, that a student having developed sufficiently good qualities of heart and mind, and with a burning desire of knowledge, approaches a teacher, a guru, sits at his feet, tunes his mind to the teachings given by the master, and tries his best to absorb and practice the teachings. So in short, the Upanishad contain that knowledge which can answer all those questions. And that knowledge can be gained by a seeker of truth. So that seeking, the burning desire has to be there. But this can be gained when we spend enough time at the feet of the Guru. Why is it said that the student must sit at the teacher's feet? Because just as the flow of water is natural and effortless from an upper to a lower level, but not in the other direction. Sitting at the feet of the teacher is symbolic of the student looking up to the teacher with respect and reverence. So that means these two qualities are must. And with this kind of attitude, the student, the knowledge of the teacher flows easily to him. It gets absorbed, it gets assimilated, and he's ready to practice. The most important point is that the word Upanishad does not essentially refer to a book, but to this highest knowledge. And what is that knowledge? Knowledge of the self, the soul, the Atma. The word ni, see, ni, shad. Ni in Sanskrit also means determination. So this indicates that the student must approach the teacher with a firm determination to gain this knowledge. Student must feel that unless and until I gain this knowledge, I'm not leaving here. That kind of a determination. If the teacher tells the student that he must first stay in the ashram for 100 years, the student must be ready to stay. And there have been examples of these kind of students. In other words, the student must feel that he is ready to abide by whatever instructions and advice the teacher gives him. There is a Sanskrit verse which says it all beautifully. Deham vapatyami karyam vasadhyami. So deham vapatyami karyam vasadhyami. Either this body will fall down dead or I will accomplish my goal. So that means this body is not as important. Body will fall down. But while I'm in this body, I must attain this goal. This is the firm determination with which the student has to approach the Guru. In all the four Vedas, and I'm sure you know the names, Rigved, Yajurved, Samved, Atharvaved. There are three sections of Karma, Upasana, and Jnana. And the Jnana section is comprised of many Upanishads. Even though there are more than 108 Upanishads in the Vedas, the knowledge taught them is the same. And what is that knowledge? Knowledge of the self. In all those Upanishads. And what is a self-knowledge? What is the real subject matter of the Upanishads? For all of us living here in this world, questions such as, who am I? What is this world? And where did it came from? Those questions eventually arise. The first question, who am I, is related to myself and my true nature. The second question, what is this world? Relates to the nature of the world which I see around me. And the third question, where did it come from? That also comes to our mind. So our desire for the knowledge that will answer these questions is fulfilled in the Upanishads. They tell us that Brahm is the origin of this creation and it also our own true nature. We should ask this question. What is Brahm? Our Upanishads give two main definitions that make the subject matter clearer. Brahm is that from which all beings are born, that by which they are sustained, and that unto which they return. This is a very clear definition again and again in our Upanishads. Let me repeat. Brahm is that from which all beings are born. So if somebody says, where did you come from? Brahm. Who is sustaining all this? So that by which they are sustained, that's also Brahma. And ultimately, that unto which we return also. Everything. The word Brahm is not very common, but the word God is. Even though many people have doubts and questions when they speak of God, there is one thing which all of us, even the scientists, will accept. For every creation, product, or manufactured thing, there must be a cause, a source. When we look at the universal creation as a whole, most everyone agrees that there must be a cause for it. However, when the scriptures call that source God or Brahma, some people say, no, we don't accept that. In other words, the idea of source or origin is acceptable to them, but not when it is referred to as God. In the Upanishads, Brahma is said to be, first of all, the source of all creation. Secondly, Brahma is also indicated in this way: that which is not perceived by the eyes as an object, as a color, or a form, but because of which the eyes are able to see, that is Brahma, and which we all call God also. In the Cain Upanishad, we read that which is not seen, but because of which the eyes are able to see, that which cannot be described by words, but because of which our speech is able to describe other things. That which is not heard by the ears, but because of which our ears are able to hear, that is Brahma. It's a very clear definition. Upanishads talk like this again and again. Because this is a profound definition of God. And if an atheist were to say, I do not believe in God, we can see that God is that because of whom the atheist can speak the very sentence. If there's no God in him, he won't be able to utter the words. So the God is pointed out in the Upanishads as pure consciousness. That because of which we are able to see, to hear, to speak, and because of which we are able to think also. So mind cannot think without the Brahm, the God, Atma. That which is not thought of by the mind, but because of which the mind is able to think, that is Brahma. And this is our own self. Again and again, we read these statements in the Jnana Kand of the Vedas. Let me give you an example. In the light of an electric bulb, we can see many objects in a room, but not electricity itself. That because of which there is a light in the bulb is called electrical energy. Yet the light itself is not electricity. In the same way, that because of which there's a life in this body is called Brahm, the self. Its existence cannot be denied by anyone. Therefore, Brahm is said to be the origin of all this creation and is seated in the hearts of all beings as consciousness. To know that this consciousness is me is the highest achievement that a human being can gain. That's why these questions arise. To know God, to experience it, comes after the karma kand or the selfless actions, because we have to purify our mind. Impure mind cannot even think questions like this. And a well-trained mind which is fully concentrated, and that happens with the upasana. So if we have not gone through the Karam Kand and the Upasana Kand, Jnana Kand is just mere superficial words for us. There is nothing greater than this, because once we know that it is only the self which is appearing as the total universe, our senses of limitations and finitude ends. Our entire vision of the world changes actually. And that's what's called self-realization. And this is the subject matter of the Upanishad, the Gyan portion of the Vedas. This portion deals with the knowledge of the Brahm. You can say Brahm, or you can also say Atma. And which this knowledge dispels the ignorance about our own true nature. In Sanskrit, this knowledge is called Brahm Gyan or Brahma Vidya. All our efforts in spiritual practices, which we call sadhana, all rituals, all the visits to the temples, worshipping the idols of gods, or even various religious symbols, are meant only to lead the individual jeev to this final realization. That is the goal for all of us. Rest are all means, whether we go to this guru or that guru, whether we sit down, cover our head or uncover our head, go to the church or go to the mosque, go to the temple or don't even go anywhere. But this is what we need to realize. That is the goal. Now I will touch upon another topic which is found to be confusing to many Hindus as well as to the people of other faiths also. That is the notion that Hinduism has many gods. Even though we believe in it, can we explain it or not? The other day, I was doing Havan at somebody's house, a young kid, I think he's 4, he asked me, is Lord Ganesha an animal? From a young mind, this question is coming. We should be able to answer the questions as adults. What are these multiple gods? Are there really many gods in Hinduism? No. Upanishads are very clear in pointing out that there's only one God, one truth. In the Chandogya Upanishad, it is said, in the beginning, all this was nothing but Sat. Sat alone, and it is one without a second, which is Brahma. One alone. And what is that one? The Upanishads say that in itself, the truth is that which cannot be defined by any words, because only a finite thing can be described, never an infinite thing. Therefore, Brahm is pointed out as that which is nameless and formless, that which is not a sound, a taste, a color, or a touch. It is the attributeless, nameless, formless, and pure existence. Brahm also has the infinite power to express in many ways, through manifold forms. Let's look at the example which really makes this concept easier to understand. We use the word government frequently. The government has made this decision, by government, taxes are being raised, etc. Every day we read or we hear. When I was a child, and I'm sure some of you might have had the same experience, I thought that the government was the name of an individual person. But is the government a person or an object with a form that can be seen? As we got older, we had the answer. What is its color, its taste, or texture? The government cannot be pointed out by any of these terms or qualities as such, because the word does not indicate one particular individual in the way the word president does or the prime minister does. And where is the government located? As far as this country is concerned, we say that the government is all pervading. It is everywhere in the nation. If someone says, show me where the government is, you cannot do it, because the government as a power exists everywhere in the nation and cannot be said to exist only in one place. However, we may be able to indicate particular offices where the government officials are located, though it is sometimes difficult to find the officials there, no doubt. Now we may say that in the United States, that if you go to Washington, D.C., you will find the government, because there are many government buildings, offices, secretaries, etc. Yet all these people put together are not the government. The government is still much more than that. What is seen is only the power of the government, expressing and functioning through these innumerable people in different positions. Just as the government is one, but the government officials are many. It is said there is one supreme being, that is pure existence, consciousness, omniscient, omnipotent. It is that being alone who expresses as different powers and is known by different names. This does not mean that the one has actually become many. For example, in myself, I am one, yet I also have various powers that I am expressing through different mediums. The power with me that expresses through the eyes is called the power of seeing. And when I use this power to see, then I can call myself a seer. I am seeing. When the same power expresses through my ears, it is called the power of hearing. And accordingly, I am called a hearer. Depending on the medium through which my consciousness is functioning, I am also called a taster, toucher, smeller, feeler, thinker, doer, and even enjoyer. Now, think about it. Is there really more than one I? Though this I, which is of the nature of pure consciousness, is really one, it appears to be many when it expresses as different powers functioning through my various senses and mental faculties. Does it mean that I have become many? Again, the powers are said to be many because the mediums through which the one power is expressing are many. This is also true with electrical energy. Electricity is one homogeneous nature, pervading the entire world. But when it functions through the heater, refrigerator, radio, TV, amplifier, its expressions are different. Functioning through the heater, the electrical power is heat. When the same electrical energy functions through the radio, it expresses as a sound. So in other words, the energy is one and the same, but we call it by different names, according to the medium through which it expresses. And in our relationship to the other people also, the same entity is referred to in different ways. In relation to my parents, I'm called a daughter. In relation to my siblings, I am called a sister. At the same time, in relation to my children, I am called a mother. The same way that one infinite being, Brahma, acting through its creative power, is called creator. Acting through the destructive power is called destroyer. And acting through its sustaining power is called sustainer. This does not mean that the creator, sustainer, and the destroyer are three separate beings. The one same being is expressing through these three different powers. We should be clear about it. Just as many laws, departments, regulations, and forces exist in order to control and govern the country, this whole universe is controlled by many laws and forces of nature, and the different deities presiding over them. These deities, again, are not different from the one Lord, but are smaller manifestation of that one power. In Hinduism, there are not many gods. All the different forms of Hindu gods and goddesses are but one God expressing in different ways. This is This idea should be very clear to us. And if a person studies the Hindu scriptures properly, there won't be any doubt left at all. This basic concept of oneness in diversity is also the underlying foundation of all the Puranic literature. Though it seems at first to be confusing and contradictory, the Puranic literature includes the Vishnu, Shiva, Brahmanda, Varuna, Kurma, some of the Purans, and other texts also pertaining to the stories of particular Hindu deities. We know that in the Vishnu Puran, for example, it is said that the Lord Vishnu is the supreme being, and that all creation, including all the other gods, have come from him. When we read the Ganesh Puran, Lord Ganesh is pointed out as the supreme god. And from the Vishnu, Shiv have been created from him. People become confused when they read this. But the very fact that the Puran says that the whole creation has come from one being means that that which is represented by the words Ganesh, Shiv, or Vishnu is one and the same reality. So in essence, there is no difference at all. Different forms of the one are recognized in the Hindu religion so that people can worship whichever form attracts them the most. Some people can only conceive of God as master and ruler, while some can only conceive of God as the divine mother. Some worship God as father, as a friend, or as the divine beloved. Some people are fond of worshipping God in the form of animals also. When we say Shiv, Vishnu, Ganesh, or Devi, these are actually different aspects of the divinity that can be understood. For example, Lord Vishnu's first and absolute aspect is the nameless, formless, and attributeless reality, the origin of this creation. His second identity is as God, the creator and sustainer of this world. In fact, the role of sustainer is emphasized more for Lord Vishnu because the name itself means that which sustains or pervades the entire world, Vishnu. The third identity of God, Vishnu, is as he appears in many different incarnations, avatars on earth. Shri Ram, Shri Krishna, Vaman avatar, Matsya avatar, so many avatars, countless avatars. And the fourth aspect is the Ishtarupa, the form of that particular deity chosen by the devotee as his favorite for personal worship, Ishtadevta. Lord Shiv's absolute nature as the nameless and formless reality is the same as Vishnu's. Remember that, as well as of the other gods and goddesses of Hinduism. Rishi Vyas is the one who wrote all those Purans. You think he didn't know that? He himself is a avatar of God. So when we study Purans or when we study the Upanishads, we should keep this basic fact in our mind. Then we can draw the proper knowledge from it. In his cosmic form, however, Lord Shiv is represented as a destroyer of the world, playing his drum, doing the tandav, dancing in a circle of flames. He is also shown in his many incarnations, assuming different forms at different times for different purposes. Lord Shiv is most often said to take a Guru avatar, incarnation as a Guru, as a Shri Dakshinamurti. A particular roop, form of the deity is given to us for worship. Remember that. Through that form, we are supposed to attain our highest goal. In this aspect, Lord Shiv is most often pictured as sitting in meditation with the divine river Ganga representing knowledge flowing down from his head. That's why I said, it's a Guru avatar. Every aspect of a deity's chosen form also has a symbolic meaning and is meant for dhyan, meditation. There's always an accompanying meditational verse, which is called a dhyan shlok. This is all given in our scriptures. Meditation on the Lord's form enables us to go beyond the form to reach the formless absolute nature of God. Sure, we start out with the form, then with the help of the mantra, Guru mantra, we reach towards that formless essence. If we do not have this understanding regarding the many forms of the one reality, we can definitely become confused. From the explanation I have given on the Upanishads, it should be little clear that in Hinduism there is one God, or you can say supreme reality, which manifests or expresses itself through various powers represented by the forms of different gods and goddesses. We should be able to tell it to if anybody asks. And we should be clear about it. There should not be any confusion regarding the multiple forms in Hinduism in our mind. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.